All right, everyone. So we are up and looking at the chemical senses. And remember, this kind of goes hand in hand with the visual sense, the auditory sense, the kinesthetic senses. And remember, all of these different things are how we interpret or how we collect the data that enables us to interpret reality, which is something for another day. So, predominantly, the chemical senses are tied to our sense of taste and our sense of smell. Both of them are ultimately connected to each other. And why are they chemical? Well, the reason why these are considered chemical senses is because the sensory receptors in our mouth and in our nose are sensitive to specifically chemical molecules. So, like for example, when you take a bite of something and you're eating a sandwich or whatever, or sniffing some flowers or whatever, what is happening is the chemicals, the compounds, the molecules that make up that smell or whatever are actually interacting and to a certain extent actually being absorbed by the chemical receptors. Now, this is a little different from our energy senses, like our sense of sight and our hearing, because what those are focused on are the detection of waves, and they're sensitive to waves. So specifically, the light waves that enable us to see. That is focused around the what we call the visible light spectrum. So anything above the in the higher frequencies, in the realm of ultraviolet and stuff like that, we're not able to see. And anything, I guess, lower, it fall into the infrared category, and that is, well, something we're not able to see. So we're only really able to see a specific wavelength. And the same thing with hearing. So like with our hearing, there are things we can hear, there are things we cannot hear. But if you have a dog, you can get a dog whistle, blow on that, and watch Cujo freak out while everybody else is standing around going, "Why is the dog wigging out?" But but again, mainly these two other senses, the energy senses, they are focused around the idea of detecting waves, energy waves, whether it be, again, sound waves, light waves, whatever. And chemical senses, these are more interacting with the molecules and the particles of whatever we are consuming or smelling or any of that kind of stuff. So, in general, kind of the first one up is our sense of taste, which the sciencey word is gustation. And in general, we have five tastes. We taste sweet, we taste salty, we taste bitter, we taste sour. We also taste what's called umami, which is a meaty taste, usually found in meat and some mushrooms. And now, once upon a time, and again, I don't know how true this is, but this is just something that I was taught when I was a wee baby child, middle school, high school. We were taught that different parts of our tongue tasted different things. So, like the sweet was on the tip, bitter on the back, sour on the sides, that kind of stuff. Well, my understanding is that is not really accurate anymore. So, like, you can taste anything all over your mouth or all over your tongue, and actually, you can even taste it in your mouth because actually have more. Um, Taste buds are not just on your mouth or just not in your tongue; they're in your mouth. They're scattered throughout your mouth, even all the way up to the roof of your mouth. But the mass majority of them are found on your tongue. Now, what happens also is we actually replace our taste buds every 10 to 14 days. And you probably experienced at some point when, I don't know, you burned your mouth, like you drank some coffee, ate a pizza that was a bit too hot, and it burned your tongue, and you could not really taste anything for a couple weeks. And well, what happens is you actually killed your taste buds. You murdered them. But what happens is our taste buds actually kind of fall off. So kind of like with your baby teeth, um, your baby teeth are pushed out by your adult teeth. Same thing happens with your taste buds. Your taste buds get pushed off by new taste buds that are growing under it. And these swap out roughly every 10 to 14 days, and you swallow them in your sleep and all sorts of other good stuff. But something else that's a little bit interesting. Roughly every about 7 to 10 years, give or take, our taste buds actually go through a massive overhaul. So, like when you're younger, you may actually have more sweet taste buds, and then when you get older, you lose a lot of those sweet taste buds, and you maybe go for more of the salty and the sour and the bitter and the umami. Um, this is actually why, like, if you're an older person, you don't like me, I'm like in my 40s now. There are things that you used to like when you were younger that you may not like anymore. Well, the reason for it may be because it literally does taste differently now because your taste buds have reset. And why this is a thing, I don't really know. Maybe it has something to do with, I don't know, different needs as you go through different stages of life. Or as you get older, you need different kinds of minerals and nutrients and that kind of stuff. But in general, though, when it does come to kind of like our taste and stuff like that, in from an evolutionary perspective, some psychologists believe that yeah, sweet, natural, we seek out sweet candies, fruits, that kind of stuff, because sweet equals calories. And back when the idea of getting 3 meals a day was a bit of a massive luxury, you would need to get all the calories you could, because you may end up going a day without a meal. So the sweet, you get calories, you live another day. And then what kind of goes with that is our sense of smell, or olfaction. And really what these are is these are chemical molecules. They enter through the nose. They come in contact with the olfactory bulb right at the very top of your nasal cavity, kind of like right behind your eyes a little bit. And that is how it works. So what happens, though, is really this kind of idea. So next time you're going somewhere and you're smelling someone that has really bad BO, well, what's happening is you are sniffing that BO, it's entering your nose, and you have BO molecules inside. This is one of those reasons why sometimes you can smell something funky, and then you're trying to get the smell out of your nose with little or no success, because yeah, the molecules are in there, and that's why you can still smell it. There you go. So clean out your nose sometimes. May help with that. But on the flip side, maybe when you have had a cold, you've had the coof or whatever, and you have lost your sense of smell. Well, what's really happening is really this. Your nose, your nasal passage, they're filled with that lung butter, snot. And the reason why you cannot smell is because literally your nasal cavity is filled with snot, phlegm, whatever you want to call it. And so when you try to breathe in, what is happening is, let me switch a different color. Those molecules are literally being blocked by all that phlegm in your nose, hence the reason why you cannot smell when you are congested. And this is actually ties into taste and flavor. So like when you're eating something, so if you sit and you eat a cheeseburger, what is happening is you're doing kind of two things. You are tasting it, and at the same time you're smelling it. Because again, let's kind of go back to you, like when you're sick and stuff like that, and maybe you feel like the phlegm dripping from the back of your throat down your throat, and it makes you want to gag and throw up and you start coughing up lung butter and all that other good stuff. Well, the reason why that's a thing is because your nasal passage and your mouth are connected. So you take a bite of a burger. What is happening? Well, you're sitting there, you're chewing the burger, num num num, and molecules from that make up that burger, that meat, the lettuce, the mayo, all that good stuff, the bread, that actually comes up through the back of your throat, up into your nasal passage, and then you smell it. And then just basically that's part of it. And then just as you're at a meal and you're eating, you can smell the food. And that is something that is part of what we call flavor. So when you eat, you taste it, you smell it, then you know what the flavor of that food is. This is actually another reason why, like when you're sick and you're trying to eat and things just don't taste right. that is why, because you're congested, you can't smell it, so you're actually missing out on about 50% of the flavor. So again, the whole flavor is a combination of the smell, the taste, the texture, all that good stuff. And yeah, there's all that process of gestation where you're eating and doing all the good stuff. And yeah, that's how you eat, and that's why you can things taste good or taste bad or have no taste at all sometimes. But there are some people that are known as super tasters. And these are people who are born with 2 or more times the number of taste buds on their tongue or in their mouth and all the other good stuff. So because of this, they have an extra sensitivity to taste. So the more taste buds you have, the more you taste. And if I remember correctly, this is a genetic thing. Like people just have a genetic predisposition towards it. And yeah, they're super tasters. And they actually have tests where if you're wondering if you are a super taster, you can, they have tests on Amazon. You can just go and jump on Amazon, type in super taster test or whatever. And what they are, like they're little like those strips that kind of like melt in your mouth. Sometimes they're same kind of technology that's used for like breath mints. You just take it, pop it on your tongue, and if you are a super taster, you will taste it. If you are not a super taster, it's not going to taste like anything. And what can happen if you are a super taster, because this is kind of a truish story. I was having dinner with someone, and I actually made dinner, and I made some tortellini. And the tortellini had actually been in the freezer for a little while because, I was trying to keep it fresh. And I took it, cooked it, made a sauce, all the other stuff. And they took a bite of it, and it tasted like metal to them. And to me, it tasted fine, but to them, it tasted like metal. And what was happening was they were tasting the freezer burn, and they were super tasters. They were much more sensitive to the different tastes that are there. And just because, while we're talking about food and drinking and stuff like that, I'm willing to bet some of y'all have had a brain freeze before. And, just because, why not? Because, yeah, it's one of those things. It's a hot day, you have a bit of a slushy, and next thing you know, you'd have a little bit too much, and then you're freezing, your head hurts, you have a brain freeze. Well, aside from the brain freeze being registered by 7-Eleven, really what a brain freeze is really this. You sip something really cold, and then what happens is the blood flow increases and shoots a bunch of blood to your brain. So what you're feeling when you have that brain freeze, what you're actually feeling is a flood of blood rushing up into your brain. Because one of the things about our body is our body is going to protect our brain, obviously, because it's the thing that keeps us alive and does everything. So what is happening is our brain naturally is going to do whatever it takes to keep it alive. Like if I were even to like throw you in a dark cave for about 2 weeks with no food and no water, your body will consume itself to keep your brain alive. This is really how it works. So same basic thing. So you drink something that's too strong, too cold. It shoots up into your mouth. It hits that top palate right up, at the roof of your mouth. That tells your brain that it's cold. Your brain then, I need more blood to stay warm. So a bunch of blood just shoots up in there. You get a headache, and then you're screaming about having a brain freeze. If you ever end up with a brain freeze, though, here's a little trick to kind of deal with that. Just stick your tongue to the roof of your mouth, because what that does is your tongue will warm the roof of your mouth, and that will cut down on the blood flow to your brain, and the headache will pass. Just a little, just because we're talking about food and drink and stuff like that. And really, aside from that, I have nothing left to say. I am out.